Good morning, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. All right, well, the time is 12 noon, and that's our start time. So hopefully, as others join us, they can pick up where we are. And we'll go ahead and get started. Our topic today is building and rebuilding good credit. Well, that's our reminder. All right. And of course, the material, the information is provided to you by United Way through the UF Duval County Extension Office. And this series was initially put together by those two entities and the city of Jacksonville. All right, United Way, of course, is my employer and our partner agency. Our mission and vision are as stated, and of course, we have a major focus at this time on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it's our hope that it'll be a practice and not just a temporary or seasonal discussion. I am your presenter, Aretha Franklin, Program and Services Coordinator for United Way in Real Sense. Again, our topic is building or rebuilding good credit, and this is what we hope to cover in this workshop. General information about credit histories and scores, how to build a credit history if you don't have one, and how to rebuild if you have bad credit. And then if you have good credit, hopefully there's some tips that you can glean on how to maintain that credit. So what does your credit affect? The rate you pay to borrow money, rate for your homeowners and auto insurance. It even affects your eligibility for some jobs and different types of bank accounts at some institutions. It also affects your ability to rent an apartment or a home. And how are those determinations made? When qualifying for a loan or a credit card of any kind, there are 4 C's of credit that each lender will look at and score according to what they're looking to partner with. So what is your character? Will you repay the debt? Based on what your credit history shows, you are either one who pays, whether you are on time every time without exception, or you have a history of slow pay, or you start to pay, and for some reason you just can't make it over the hump or the hill, so you get somewhere near the top and you drop off and it becomes a charge off or collection. So what is your character like when it as it relates to repaying your debt? Collateral. What if you don't repay the debt? Is there something in place of the value of the debt that a lender could hold? So a house that if you default on the loan, they will, of course, repossess the house, the car, things to that nature. So what type of collateral can they hold hopes of having if you aren't able to repay your debt? What about the capacity? Can you repay the debt? You're asking for a loan of $100,000, but you only make $25,000 a year. That might be a stretch. So they will either adjust the amount that they may lend you or just deny the loan altogether. And then what is the capital? What assets do you have? For a $100,000 loan, do you have stocks and bonds? Do you have CDs or things that you could easily liquidate in order to meet your obligation to repay your loan? Of course, most lenders gather their information from the three major credit bureau sources: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. These credit bureaus collect information, of course, your personal data, name, phone number, birth date, address, those types of things, whatever is actually in public record. If you've defaulted on any loan at any time, it can remain an item in public record for 7 years for judgments and 10 years for bankruptcy. So the data on your credit use and how you repay, any negative information stays for 7 years from the date of your last activity. And that's kind of a touchy situation. If you've not gone through that, kudos to you. But if you have, what I'm about to say may just be a confirmation that you may have had a loan and for some reason weren't able to pay, and they may have called you once every 30 minutes, every 30 days, every month, or some period of time where they may have called, and then maybe after year 2, they just stop calling. They may start writing, but each time a new instance of them reaching out to you is considered the last activity, that resets the clock for 7 years. So you get to year 6, 11 months, and 2 weeks, and you accidentally answer a call from an unknown number, and it happens to be that creditor. Even if you say hello, that restarts the clock for 7 years. And I know that sounds like trickery. It may even sound like misinformation, but it can be recorded as such because they'll always have the disclaimer in the written notification as well as in the verbal conversation that this is an attempt to collect a debt. Any information contained herein or gained herein, blah, 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 blah. And that does start your clock all over again. Any inquiries to your credit, whether it's just trying to see whether or not you're eligible for a credit card, whether it is secured or an unsecured card, or just in purchasing or updating your car insurance, homeowners insurance, or renter's insurance, anything that accesses your information is an inquiry, and it will remain on your credit report for 2 years. So limit the number of times that you choose to apply for anything, especially if you're attempting to rebuild your credit, and you'll see that those things won't impact your score as much. So your free credit report, we talk about this quite often because many people make the mistake of looking for their free credit report from a website that is falsely labeled freecreditreport.com. And the reason I say falsely is that one is not, it is an active website, but you can actually incur some charges. The annualcreditreport.com, which is seen here in the middle of the screen, is the one that is acknowledged by and monitored by the federal government, and you can receive one credit report from each of the 3 bureaus once a year. Pardon me, either by visiting the website or calling the number. I may have mentioned it before, but if not, I definitely want to do so now, that because of COVID, there has been an extension or a revision in how often you can receive your credit report until further notice. And I want to say it's either 2023 or 2026, the year that this will continue through, just to ensure that you haven't become the victim of identity theft, or there are no fraudulent charges against you in any way. You can actually obtain your credit report on a weekly basis using the annualcreditreport.com. Again, on a weekly basis, and that is from all 3 credit bureaus. So whether you do it weekly, monthly, annually throughout this time frame, keep in mind that if you access other sites by accident, you're likely to receive a charge for a subscription fee just to monitor the service. And I don't know about you, but I don't have $39.95 or $29.95 or that range that I want anyone taking from my account because I wanted to get my information that I'm entitled to. So beware of going to fraudulent sites. And the way that they access your information is they will ask you up front for a credit card, and they'll tell you, it's just $1 to access, but you have to pay attention to the small print. And that small print says this is like a 4 or 7 day or maybe a 14-day trial. And if you do not cancel this trial period on day 8 or 15 or whatever the end of that term is, your account will be charged monthly $39.95 or $29.95. The credit score, even when you're pulling it from the annualcreditreport.com, is not included for free. So even that site will ask you, I believe, especially TransUnion, they will ask you for that credit card information. They'll charge you $1 to see your credit score. And then again, there's the small print. And I have a friend who says it like this: the bold print, the large print gives you everything you want, but the fine print takes it all away. So you want to make sure that you're reading closely. Keep a magnifying glass or learn how to enlarge your print on your monitors if you do everything online, so that you're able to see exactly what you're signing up for and when you need to cancel any subscription. So it says that the score is not included for free, and it's not when you're just checking. But if you've been denied credit or you feel that you've been charged more for a loan than you agreed upon, then that score can be included for free, but you'll have to have that proof to back it up. When you access the annualcreditreport.com, this is the landing page. And as you can see, quite a bit of information, again, a little bit more fine print. So definitely read it carefully before you accept any terms. But here's where you would click annualcreditreport.com to get the process rolling to receive all three: TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. Here are a lot of frequently asked questions. And the only reason I'm not clicking these options is this is actually a screenshot. So it's not an active link. And I just changed my slide, excuse me. If you have any questions, you can contact them. Here's a little bit more about the annualcreditreport.com. And then maybe you've discovered that you are the victim of identity theft. Pardon me. You can click here to create a fraud alert. And Ms. Chantel, I believe it is either the year 2023 or the year 2026. I will check that. And when I send these slides to you all, I'll try and include that information in the email, okay? All right, so what is annualcreditreport.com? And again, just reading up on the information. And as you click through, please just take the time to cover yourself and make sure you know what it is that is expected of you when using this site, and what benefits there are to using the site. So again, going back to the 4 C's, will a consumer repay? There are risk models available to the lenders, and you should also be able to know what those models look like and how you may fit in before you understand before you receive their determination. You can almost assess your own financial picture to determine, I want to buy this $400,000 home. Here's what I earn. It'll be a 30-year mortgage, blah, 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 blah. But what are the risk models and what will it cost me if I undertake this particular project on? At some point, let's see. I believe they do, Morris S., take into account when you pay off loans early, especially if those loans are reported to the credit bureau. Sometimes we get excited about opportunities to build credit, but we're not, we don't do our due diligence and our homework to ensure that the creditors actually report to the credit bureau. So anytime you feel as though what you've done is a great accomplishment, before you get started with it, make sure that you know for sure that they do report to the credit bureaus, okay? The risk models help to measure the risk that a consumer will or will not repay their debt. It looks at your credit score, and hopefully you all are definitely already familiar with the credit score, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the score is based on your credit history. The FICO, which is the Fair Isaac Corporation's grading scale of how well you manage your debt to income ratio, and the low score is 350, the high score is 850. And in looking at these numbers, I may make the disclaimer that this is probably a little outdated. And if it is, I'll try and update it before I send it to you guys. The Vantage score is between 500 and 1,000, and they add a letter grade, just like you're in school. You know, you get a 98% on your test. It's definitely an A, but you get a 77. It's maybe, you know, C minus, B plus, or something. So you just want to pay close attention to that and what it means. But these two, the FICO and the Vantage score, are the two most actively used when considering a person's credit worthiness. So what is your credit score? What makes up your credit score? 10%. They look at the requests that you have for new credit. How often are you trying to get yet another credit card, a third car? You can only drive one at a time, and the second one's already just sitting in the driveway collecting dust. How many times are you searching for and opening new accounts? What types of credit do you have in use? They look at, of course, rent or mortgage. They look at insurance. They look at credit card debt and things to that nature. What is the length of your credit history? Right now, the very first time I opened credit that was reported to TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian, I think it now says that my credit history is about 22 years old. So that's a bit less than half of my age, but it's been consistent. And so they do take that into account, that the oldest credit that I have that's been running consistent is about 22 years. So what does that look like for you? And does it mean either you're on time? Do you have the slow pay, the no pay? What is on your credit history that will give you 15% of your credit score? What is your current total debt? They look at that 30%. They average that out about 30% of your credit score, because you're earning, again, maybe $100,000 a year, but you're always running about $325,000 in debt. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Whether you're on time with it or not, they always look at your debt to income ratio. And then what is your payment history? And it's 35%, whether you're negative, positive, you're paying the minimum on time all the time, but that minimum payment, you will be a lifetime and a half trying to pay off the debt if you're only paying the minimum. So while those two could balance out, the length of the credit history and your payment history, those two could balance each other out as far as time and what's paid on time. But at the same time, if the minimum payments is all that you're able to make, the length of your credit history continues to grow, but does it really help you as it relates to the current total debt? So those are some of the things that creditors look at. How do you establish financial stability? First, you need to know what you have coming in and what's going out. And of course, we've already talked about the spending and saving plan. We looked also at the calendar-based spending and saving plan. What do you maintain in your checking account? Do you zero out every month or every payday? Do you have anything in savings to fall back on just in case of an emergency? And do you have an emergency fund and occasional fund? We talked about those funds also over the last couple sessions. So make sure that before you try to acquire any type of housing or cars or things like that, that you're already financially stable and that there won't be a big ripple in the water. You won't be overextended if any small thing happens or major thing happens and you're covered. So I believe we talked about making sure that you have 3 to 6 months of your living expenses in savings just in case, because life is a just in case moment. So tools that you can use to build good credit history. I thought when I first saw this one, the store card, that this was really outdated, but there are still a few stores that offer credit cards, Sam's Club, Walmart, and maybe others, but that's the limit of my spending reference. Walmart, I'm a Wally World girl. I can tell you exactly, until they rearranged all the stores recently, I could tell you exactly what item was, which shelf on which aisle. Now I have to relearn the store again, and trust me, I'm on a mission. I'll have it memorized by the end of March. Oil company cards, Shell, Amoco, BP, those gas stations are still offering, oil companies are still offering those types of cards, and those can be used, and I'll tell you how in just a moment, small installment loans. But again, make sure that each of these lenders, before you apply, actually report to the credit bureau so that you're actually working toward building credit and not just practicing the steps, going through the motions and not reaping any benefits from it. Co-signer to help you get a loan. I cringe every time I see this because I co-signed for a couple of loans and I ended up getting stuck with them. So know very well who it is that you're co-signing for and make sure that they are comfortable if they need to co-sign for you. A secured credit card, that's one of the easiest ones to do. If you feel like you need to start out with a credit card, $300 to $500 put aside in the savings account. Try first your credit union or your personal bank that you've already got a relationship with. Thank you, Ms. Colleen. Circle K offers 10 cents off per gallon just for getting an Easy Pay card. Many of the gas stations are, I don't want to keep saying gas stations. Many of the oil companies are also doing some type of promotion to get your business using their credit cards. If I'm not mistaken, I saw Shell has like 30 cents off a gallon for so long, and then after that you get a little bit more, a little bit less off per gallon, excuse me, over another length of time. It's interesting. So shop around, make sure that what they're offering is the thing that will benefit you the most to give them the business that they're seeking. All right. Let's see, we'll go on to the next one. Secured credit cards are cards secured, of course, as I mentioned, by your savings account. If you can only afford a $300 to get started, make sure that those funds are available. And once you deposit them and you receive that card, you'll see on your monthly statements that this amount of money is in the account, but it'll be 300 or 500 or whatever the secured amount is. That amount will not be available pardon me, and even though that card is tied to your savings account, you will not be able to charge more than the amount that you tied to the secured card. If you do it right, however, please excuse me, the lenders will, as they monitor how you utilize your credit and then how you make your payments back on time, they will consider changing the status of your card from secured to unsecured. And what that simply means is once you've reached that place and they feel like you're trustworthy, they will, let you know, all right, well, you've earned the unsecured status. We'll release your monies back to you to use however you choose. They may even increase your credit limit at that point, and you can continue to use the card. Well, I'm trying to see this question so I can answer in real time. From Cleveland C, how long should we use a secured credit card before we apply for a real credit card? And should we close out our secured credit card once we get a new card? Or should we keep both? Does having multiple credit cards build our credit more than just one? Great question, and I believe I started to answer that. The credit card company will, again, switch it for you, or they'll give you insight as to, you can always weigh out whether or not you think it's better to have two. But I've done this with a couple companies, and what they've done is just made the transition on my behalf from being a secured holder. They switched it to unsecured. I didn't have to change cards or memorize another number and have more, right? Capital One does it, or have more than one card. Now, I did at a later date get and accept an invitation from Capital One. I started with Capital One, $300 secured, built up, and where I am now is a perfect match. That if I'm in an emergency need, I can use my card and go forward. So they offered me a second card. It was a lesser value than the first, but using between the two of them, one allows me cash back, one allows me airline miles, those types of things. So again, check the benefits and what works best for you. Shop carefully. Check first with your credit union or bank, as I mentioned earlier. Be sure that whatever card you receive is reported to the credit bureau. Keep in mind that prepaid cards are not secured cards, and they are not reported on your credit history. These cards also carry a lot of fees, so make sure you comparison shop. If you have to pay to add money to the card, pay per transaction, pay for anything over and over and over using this card, it is more than likely a prepaid card and not a secured or unsecured credit card, and you want to steer clear of those. All right, so here's how you determine if this is the type of card you want. Premium plastic card. Should you apply for this card? Yes or no? The application fee, $89. Participation fee, $3 per month. The annual fee, $59 a month. Look at that. You're already over $140 just using this card. You have a grace period of 21 days. Now, if you're one who needs it, right? No and no way. And I haven't even finished with the rest of them, right? Minimum deposit, $600. No interest rate paid on your deposit. Annual percentage rate for your purchases, 19.8. And the cash advance is 21.8. Keep in mind with this cash advance on anybody's card, if your account is not zeroed out, as long as you have this card and you have a balance of $1 that you did not pay off, they're going to continue to charge you 21.8% for cash advances. How do I know this? I tell you guys, I'm transparent. I had an emergency. I did a cash advance on my Capital One card. I love Capital One, a $350 cash advance. And it took me a while to zero out my balance. And for all of that while that it took me to zero out my balance, they were charging me for cash advance rate. So, right, never again, Chantel, I'm with you on that. Cash advance fee, 4%, which is $20 minimum. And don't ever be late if you can't afford this, because $35 late fee is just not worth it, guys. That's a tank of gas, that's a couple of groceries, and maybe, I don't know, a snack from Mickey D's, which, at this point, $35, I'm not getting a whole lot of snack, maybe just 2 or 3 fries in the bottom of my bag. So of course the answer here, no, you don't want to apply for the card. Here's a second, cure your credit card. Look at that application fee. For $295, who needs credit? I'll just buy it in cash, right? Participation fee, there is none. The annual fee, $35. Grace period, 21 days. Minimum deposit, $300. The interest rate is 7.5%. Annual percentage rate, 21.99 for purchases, and the same for cash advances. Cash advance 3 is 3% or $5 minimum, $50 maximum. Late fee, $29. And no, you still should not apply for this type of card. What type of steps can you take to rebuild your credit? Gather data, analyze your situation. Again, we go back to that family spending and saving plan. And then you need to check your credit and debt information. What's out there on your credit report? Put a 1 in the chat if you're near your keyboard or phone to let me know. 1, yes, I do check my credit often, or 2, I don't. And I promise there's no repercussions. I just want to see who it is I'm working with. All right. Find money to pay debts. Remember, I mentioned this in one of the other sessions. It would be great if we could walk our path on a regular basis and find money on the ground. But I don't want you walking into manholes, into trees, or the sides of buildings because we're looking to find money to pay our debts. That's not what that means. Talk a little bit about using a debt reduction technique, and then plan for your future use of credit. Gathering and analyzing the data. If you all have not yet ordered the calendar, please do it, and work through the process. It's tedious at first. It's frustrating at first, especially if you have not been diligent about or disciplined about how you spend your money, but definitely do as much as you can to work through that process. The first year and a half, it might be a little upsetting, but it'll be rewarding starting that second half of the second year. And here's just a worksheet that is offered in this example. It's an income and expenses worksheet. It shows your income, what month, these are your wages. Do you receive tips or any of these? You would fill it in. The person here had an additional $100, which is other income. There's the total that they receive. Now they go over to their fixed expenses, rent or mortgage, vehicle payment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, comes to a total of $945. Now that's the fixed expenses. All right, and then the flexible ones, remember, those are the ones that can change from month to month, week to week, day to day, depending on what's going on in your world. Pardon me. The total for that, $685. So when you add these two and subtract, wow, $70 is what remains. That is a good number because it's not negative. But what would you do with that extra $70? Because I don't know how you guys do it, but if I'm doing laundry and I happen to put on a pair of jeans that I had on 6 weeks ago, and I put my hand in a pocket and oh my God, there's a $10 bill. well, I'm not really looking to run to the bank and put it in savings. I'm going to find a reason to spend it. That should not be our natural response, although it is. So what could you do if you were able to balance out and have a positive number? Maybe even decide to put a little bit more of that into your savings. Maybe take an extra 10 or 15 or $20 out of that and pay extra on, one of your bills to toward the principal, rather than, just frivolously spending it. Every now and then it's good to splurge on yourself. I'm trying to think of ways. My birthday is next week and I'm looking for something to do, but I also have to find the money to do it. So it's going to be interesting. So of course, we're going to always tell you, find ways to decrease your expenses and then other ways to increase your income. So you've looked at your credit and debt information. Review your credit report and please look for errors, and thank you so much. Don't be afraid to challenge any errors that you find, especially in this day and time when identity theft is such a rampant issue in our lives. So how do you correct your credit report? You write to the credit bureau, throwing words together. Explain any errors that you find, and always keep copies of proof, whether they're electronic or they are hard copy. What I recommend as it relates to any paper receipts, because now, of course, they're all thermal paper, and over time those fade and they are very useless 6 months to a year down the road when you have to challenge something because they have faded. So if you're able to scan them, take a picture and, categorize it somehow in your electronic data, just make sure you're covering yourself, especially for major purchases. Contact the company that reported the error, ask them to correct it in writing with each credit bureau. If over time they do not, but you have the proof, you provide it to the credit bureau along with a challenge against that issue. Photocopy any pertinent documents, the agreement letter to pay, etc. Send certified mail return receipts requested, or follow whatever directions they have online. 30 days it should take to investigate and reply with the results of your challenge of that charge. Understand your debt status. What is the statute of limitations for laws on contract and credit cards? Florida's law says 5 years on unsecured debt. Federal laws on credit reporting, any negative items should be deleted 7 years from the date of the last activity, and bankruptcy 10 years from the date of discharge. All right, and it is your personal responsibility. Believe it or not, the creditors are quick to add your information, but it really would not matter to them one way or the other if they went back and did their diligence. Sorry about that. Let me close that app for a moment. All right, should have done that before, my apologies. All right, so find money to pay debt from your spending and savings plan, and then use savings techniques. Ways to find money: crash saving diet, gifts and refunds. Don't be quick. I'm saying this to myself, but you get to hear my conversation with me, that if I receive any gifts next week for my birthday, darn it, don't be quick to run out and buy that dress you've been eyeing for the last 3 months. Put some of it away or toward your expenses. Extra paychecks. What this means is there are some employers who pay either like the 15th and the end of the month. So there really are only 24 paychecks in the year for those from those employers to their employees, but others pay on the bi-weekly. That means you've got 26 paychecks, and sometimes 2 of them will fall as a third paycheck in that particular month. Those are considered extra paychecks if you're on a schedule for paying rent on the 1st, utilities on the 15th, then you happen to have this third paycheck. Consider adding more to your savings or divvying that up over the major expenses that you have and paying more toward the principal, and see yourself getting debt free a lot faster. But don't get frustrated if when that extra pay, those 2 extra paychecks come along and you can't do that because you have some type of an emergency. If your emergency fund wasn't built up, you can use the paycheck for that. But if your emergency fund was built up and you had to use it, use the extra paychecks to restock, for lack of a better term right now, to restock that emergency fund. I mentioned this before, review your income tax withholding. Make sure that the number is as low as possible so that they can, the IRS can take out the necessary taxes so that when it's time to file, you either break even or you benefit from a refund. Break those costly habits. Make coffee at home if you can, if you have a high coffee habit, or take coffee grounds to work with you. Take what makes a great cup of coffee for you throughout the day, or tea, and just have it, in your desk or wherever you're able to keep those type of refreshments. If you're a soda drinker and they allow you a small refrigerator under your desk, stock up where you can get 3 or 4 12-pack cans at your local grocery store. You buy 3 for $11 or 4 for $12, and you put those cans in your refrigerator. You're saving yourself as well as treating yourself, and you'll see a big difference. And then, of course, collect the change. And I mentioned last week that there are apps now that will round up your purchase. If you buy something that ends in 75 cents, they'll take the additional quarter and either put it in your savings account, which you can do, set up yourself, or they've got some that take that and actually invest it for you. So it's all on you how you choose to use those types of tools. So using a debt reduction technique, the Power Pay, or debt management plan, and negotiate. I provided the link to Power Pay for you on last week, and this is just a little bit more explanation. You make a commitment to stop borrowing or charging until your current debts are paid. When one debt is paid, that monthly payment is rolled over to the next debt. So say you've been paying on a washer and dryer, you've come to the end of that, take that same monthly payment and now add it to paying off your car note. And you'll see that those debts are rolling off faster and faster. You're creating a greater credit score for yourself, and then you're able to maneuver a little bit better. Your total monthly payment remains the same. So you're not doing yourself a disservice by rolling that payment over to the next debt. You're actually building up and helping yourself to do better. So only the distribution of the payment changes. Save interest by paying your debt sooner. Your debt repayment plan, determine the amount you owed, decide the amount that you can actually pay back and when you can do it. Set up a plan for paying debts, discuss the plan with your creditors, and then follow the plan and control your spending, review and revise whenever necessary. And here's just a sample. Your total debt, $10,000, your take home, $2,500, 25% of that income is $625. That's the amount you can apply toward paying your debt. So here's the actual explanation of the calculation. Pay back the percentage of the total debt represented by each individual debt. So what is the amount owed on debt 1? You write that there, you divide it by each amount owed. I'm sorry, each amount owed by the total debt to find the percent that is due. And then step 2, the amount paid for each debt. That equals the total dollar amount available for debt repayment times the percentage of the total debt you owe. And this is what that looks like. Debt 1 is $3,400. The total debt is $10,000. So that's 34%. Step 2, the example, you've got $625 that you can use to pay it. Multiply that by 34%. So debt 1 is going to receive $212.50 monthly until it's paid off. And you repeat that process for each debt owed. Negotiate what was the original debt versus the interest and fees. Can you make a lump sum payment versus installment payments? How will the payment appear on the credit history? Make sure that when you're making these negotiations, you ask for a statement first. That way you've got something in writing that says that you both have made this agreement and entered into it. Make online payments and keep the receipts. Send money orders, personal or cashier's checks. That way you're covered on more than one end, because at any point in time, if you were to try to pay by a prepaid card, that was one, I actually changed that, because a prepaid card, you could submit the payment, and I'm not giving you guys any negative opportunities here, but it's been done that people will send money through an app. They'll use a prepaid credit card. They will a prepaid card. They'll use other methods that will show as paid, and then before the recipient can actually take hold of those fees, they'll go back and cancel. They'll report it as stolen. I've seen it done. I've heard about it, and it is not the best. It's not a good look for those of us who are trying to build our credit and be legit with our transactions. I want you to know that help is available. If any of you are looking for any type of assistance from a financial counselor, or you know someone who may be in need of these services, our partner, Family Foundations, their phone number is listed here, and this is their website. You could actually go on their website and see what it is that they are offering to our community and our partners, and take advantage, if you will. Beware of loan consolidation, credit repair clinics, and home equity loans. This is a little longer, and I don't want to chew up all of your lunchtime, so I'm going to just kind of skip a little bit. Go into debt only for those items that will increase your long-term financial security. So again, we're talking cars. We may be talking high-end, I said cars, houses is what I meant. High-end cars that, if maintained well, can become classics over the years. Those kinds of things, if that is where you want to invest your money. And then again, we talked a little bit about investing in yourself. Those are some of the things that you want to consider. Just remember from this slide to use credit wisely. Compare for better interest rates, understand all the terms, pay off the loans as soon as you possibly can, beware of all fees and charges, and avoid the minimum payment trap. We talked about that. So we've come to the end of the presentation. Again, you all will receive these slides, and I'm going to research a couple of those points before I send them to you. So hopefully I did a decent job, if not a good one, at covering the general information about credit histories and scores, how to build credit history if you don't have one, how to rebuild if you happen to have bad credit, and again, maybe there was a tip or two in there as to how you could maintain that good credit history. So we're at the evaluation point. Just drop in the chat for me if you don't mind. The answers to these questions. And next week is our last week together for this series, and our topic will be on dollar decisions. And it's my hope that there will be something there that you've not seen before and will be able to benefit from once you do see it. All right. Any questions, comments? You guys have been great to pop them in the chat earlier, and I appreciate that. I can't find the window. Okay.
Aretha,
Yes.
I just wanted to say one thing that happened to me
Mm-hmm.
is I was paying off my school loans, and if I had paid them off within a certain amount of time on time, that they would give me a lower interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I've received a letter from them saying you paid last month late, so you're not getting that deal anymore. Well, I looked and I hadn't paid it late. In fact, I'd paid it like 2 weeks before it was due.
Uh-huh.
And I called them up and they said, oh, well, you're not supposed to pay it early either.
Get out of here.
So I petitioned it and they sent me something saying, okay, we're going to let it go this time, but don't do it again, basically. But I just wanted to warn people that sometimes you do get in trouble for paying off early, and you have to make sure they don't penalize you for that.
Right. And that is something that I've seen over the years where we do have that disclaimer. Be sure that early payment, that there's no penalty for early repayment. So forgive me for not mentioning that at this time, but yeah, definitely you want to um, always know the terms. It seems simple enough to say, but we don't often read those contracts. Again, the fine print deters us from reading reading what the terms are. And if you're like me, I used to do my contracts like this, put my glasses on the end of my nose, knowing that I couldn't see what the heck they were saying, but I made it look official before I signed it. But on the inside, I'm like a little kid in a candy store. Oh, I'm getting a car. Oh, I'm getting this. And then, walk away with that buyer's remorse and that frustration that, oh my God, I just did myself in. So you definitely want to take time. If the impulse buy is the one buy that we encourage you to make sure that you don't do it. That's why when I talk about going to the grocery store with the Liz, leaving the kids at home and don't go hungry, that helps you to avoid those types of impulse buys. But having a need for a car, because without a car, you can't get to work, so you're going to lose your income. Those are things that would cause an impulse buy, and an impulse buy is truly nothing more than heightened emotion around that purchase. So do yourself a favor, do your homework before you actually do the legwork, meaning before you actually walk in to look at the cars, and then or buying the house, and then make sure that again, I think I mentioned that earlier, if you can do without that purchase 24 hours from this moment, or a week from now, it actually gives you an opportunity to see what else may be available, and give you a chance to, that comparison shop, and possibly even find a better car or house or rate that you can afford. So always avoid the impulse buy. Always make sure you know the terms of the contract, and any issues such as early repayment. What penalties will I incur if I do XYZ? But thank you for sharing that with us, Ms. Constance. That was great to know.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else? If not, got about 7 minutes to scarf down that food. Is probably cold, and I'm sorry. But I look forward to seeing all of you again next week, I hope. Thank you so much. Ms. Karan, if you will, once again, send the chat to me. That would be amazing. And I'll get these over to you once I do the research on those two extra topics. Have a great day and a great week, everyone.